Dr. Jessica Miller hadn't expected her Thursday morning to include first contact with alien life. She especially hadn't expected it to happen while bottle-feeding 3 orphan tiger cubs in her Minnesota Wildlife Sanctuary's medical bay. Yet here she was, staring through the window at what was unmistakably a sleek, silver spacecraft hovering over her facility's parking lot. "Easy there, Zeus," she murmured to her German shepherd, who stood alert but calm at her side. The massive dog's training kicked in as he positioned himself between her and the window, his protective instincts perfectly balanced with his years of experience around vulnerable animals. The cubs in her lap continued nursing, completely oblivious to the historic moment unfolding outside. The smallest one, whom she'd named Pip, pawed at the bottle while his siblings Luna and Storm dozed contentedly against her chest. The warming formula filled the air with a subtle scent that mixed with the familiar antiseptic smell of the medical bay. When the aliens finally emerged from their ship, they looked exactly nothing like what decades of sci-fi had prepared humanity for. The 3 beings that approached her facility resembled iridescent geometric shapes, more than any Earth creature, their crystalline forms catching the morning sunlight and creating dancing rainbows across the parking lot's asphalt. Jessica's first thought was that they were beautiful. Her second thought was that she should probably call someone. Her third thought was interrupted by Zeus, letting out a single, low boof, his way of saying he'd assessed the situation and found it interesting rather than threatening. The sanctuary's security system crackled to life. "Greetings, Class 3 Primitive Settlement. This is Diplomatic Scout Team Theta 7 of the Galactic Confederation. We mean no harm and request immediate dialogue with your settlement's leadership." Jessica looked down at her tiger cub-covered lap, then at the state-of-the-art medical equipment surrounding her, and finally at Zeus, who had settled into his standard observation pose. "I'm not sure primitive is the word you're looking for," she called back through the intercom. "But you're welcome to come in through the front entrance. Please use the sanitizing station. We have vulnerable patients here." The aliens' crystalline forms seemed to vibrate with what she would later learn was their version of surprise. They consulted among themselves in a language that sounded like wind chimes in a hurricane before responding. "You, invite us into your medical facility. While you are nurturing infant apex predators. Well, I can't exactly leave them right now. They need to finish their formula. And it's a bit chilly out for cubs this young." Jessica adjusted Pip's bottle as he started to fuss. "Zeus, please show our guests in." The German shepherd padded to the door, his posture perfectly professional as he waited for the aliens to follow proper quarantine procedures. The crystalline beings performed what Jessica could only interpret as a double take between Zeus and their handheld devices. "Our scans indicate that creature is a descended form of Canis lupus, a predatory pack hunter," one of them chimed nervously. "Oh, Zeus. He's our head of security and chief emotional support officer." Jessica smiled as her dog maintained his perfect hosting posture. "He's also great with the cubs. Aren't you, boy?" Zeus's tail wagged once, professionally. The aliens' entrance into the medical bay caused all their scanning equipment to simultaneously shriek in what seemed like alarm. Jessica watched with growing amusement as they huddled in the corner, their crystalline forms flickering rapidly through colors she wasn't entirely sure existed in the normal spectrum. "Impossible," the tallest one chimed. "You are simultaneously providing maternal care to juvenile Panthera tigris while maintaining a cooperative bond with a domesticated apex predator. Our species classification system has no precedent for this behavior. Welcome to Earth." Jessica smiled, gently burping Luna as the cub finished her formula. "Would you like to learn how to bottle feed a tiger? Zeus can show you proper hand sanitizing procedures." The security footage of 3 crystalline alien diplomats being taught proper bottle-holding technique by a patient German shepherd would later become the Galactic Confederation's most studied first contact video. The moment when Pip hiccuped and caused the smallest alien to chime into light would be credited as the exact second humanity's classification was changed from primitive to further study required. approach with extreme interest. Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Jack Thompson knew something was off about the new diplomatic attaché the moment Max's tail started wagging. His Belgian Malinois had an impeccable record of maintaining professional composure during security details, yet here he was, practically bouncing on his paws like a puppy. The supposedly high-ranking Centaurian diplomat, wrapped in expensive ceremonial robes that shimmered like oil on water, had just arrived for a classified meeting at the newly established Interstellar Relations Complex in Virginia. Everything about their credentials checked out perfectly, too perfectly, as far as Jack was concerned. "Max, physician," Jack commanded quietly. The dog instantly snapped into his guard stance, but his tail kept betraying his excitement. That's when Jack noticed something else odd. The diplomat's shadow wasn't quite moving right with their body. "Sir," Jack addressed the diplomat, keeping his voice steady, "I'm afraid I need to see your secondary credentials." It was a phrase that didn't actually mean anything, just something to buy time while he reached for his comm unit. The diplomat moved with impossible speed, their form blurring as they shed their disguise. The creature beneath was something out of a nightmare, all angles and metallic edges, clearly a member of the feared Obsidian Syndicate. Their assassination attempts on diplomatic targets had already caused 3 interstellar incidents this month. But before Jack could react, Max had already made his move. Instead of attacking, the highly trained military dog executed what Jack could only describe as the world's most tactical playbow. The assassin froze, their weapon array half deployed, clearly thrown off by this unexpected response to their reveal. "Your combat unit appears to be malfunctioning," they stated in the metallic tones characteristic of their species. "Oh no," Jack couldn't help grinning as he recognized Max's body language. "He's working perfectly. He's just decided you need some love." What happened next would be viewed over 12 billion times across galactic social media networks. Max, one of Earth's most highly decorated military working dogs, completely ignored years of tactical training in favor of his own tried-and-true method of neutralizing a threat: overwhelming affection. The Obsidian Assassin's combat protocols proved absolutely useless against a friendly dog who had decided they needed cheering up. Their adaptive combat AI, designed to counter any known weapon in the galaxy, had no defense against a wagging tail and hopeful eyes. "Your emotional support assault is ineffective," the assassin declared, even as they found themselves sitting on the floor, while Max snuffled hopefully at their face. "I am immune to. Is that a treat in your pocket?" Jack watched in amazement as the galaxy's most feared infiltrator unit began unconsciously scratching behind Max's ears. "He really likes it if you get the spot just under his chin," he offered helpfully. "This information is tactically irrelevant," the assassin responded, already reaching for the indicated spot. Their lethal weapon arrays had fully retracted, replaced by what appeared to be spontaneously generated treat dispensing mechanisms. By the time the security response team arrived, they found the notorious assassin sprawled on the floor, completely incapacitated by belly rubs. Max had somehow convinced them to play fetch with one of their own deactivated pulse grenades. The Obsidian Collective did not prepare us for this form of emotional warfare, the assassin explained to their superiors during debriefing. The human combat unit deployed specialized psychological tactics. My systems registered unprecedented levels of what they classify as happiness. I require immediate reassignment to study this phenomenon. Also, I have been designated as a good boy. This title holds significant diplomatic weight among humans. The security footage became required viewing at the Galactic War College, though not for the reasons anyone expected. The sight of one of the galaxy's deadliest assassins learning to play dead on command, while actually being quite alive, sparked a revolution in interspecies relations theory. Max received a special commendation from both Earth and Galactic authorities, though he seemed more interested in the lifetime supply of premium treats that came with it. The Obsidian Collective, meanwhile, was forced to completely redesign their infiltration protocols to account for what they termed the K9 variable. the risk that their agents might accidentally become someone's best friend. Amanda Parker never set out to become an intergalactic social media sensation. She just wanted to create a space where rescue animals could help people relax while enjoying a good cup of coffee. Yet here she was, watching her Portland cafe's security feed as 3 different alien species tried to outmaneuver each other for the privilege of adopting Bernie, a cross-eyed pug with a perpetually stuck-out tongue. As representative of the Proxima Centauri Alliance, the towering crystalline being announced, I submit that our environmental domes would provide the most optimal climate control for this distinguished Earth companion. The floating cloud of bioluminescent particles that represented the nebula collective pulsed in disagreement. Our photonic matrices would allow Bernie to experience existence across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Please, the mechanical ambassador of the Silicon Directive word, extending a carefully padded manipulator to offer Bernie a treat. Our automated treat dispensing systems and integrated belly rub platforms clearly make us the superior choice. Bernie, completely unimpressed by the galactic powers competing for his affection, continued snoring in his favorite sunbeam. Nearby, Martha the retired police dog watched the proceedings with professional interest, while Amanda's rescue raccoon, Rocky, took advantage of the distraction to figure out yet another raccoon-proof treat container. "You know," Amanda interjected, adjusting her coffee-stained apron, "Bernie really just wants someone who will love him and give him a good home. He's not really interested in technological advantages." The 3 alien representatives paused their negotiations to stare at her in confusion. Their species had been engaged in a Cold War for the better part of 3 centuries, yet here they were, united in their bafflement at human adoption protocols. "But we all have superior environmental control systems," the crystalline being chimed. "Surely that is the primary factor in companion selection." Amanda smiled, reaching down to scratch Bernie's belly. The pug rolled over in his sleep, tiny legs twitching as he chased dream squirrels. "Watch this," she said, pulling out her phone and opening Instagram. The aliens clustered around her screen as she pulled up Bernie's profile. Images and videos showed the little pug's journey from a scared shelter dog to the cafe's resident nap champion. There he was comforting a crying child, sharing his bed with a nervous kitten, and attempting to befriend a bewildered robot vacuum cleaner. "Our analysis suggests this creature has no tactical advantages," the Silicon Directive's ambassador noted, even as they zoomed in on a photo of Bernie wearing a tiny party hat. "Yet your species has generated millions of data entries about him." "That's kind of the point," Amanda explained, watching as Rocky finally cracked open the treat container, only to politely share his spoils with a nearby cat. "We don't love them because they're perfect. We love them because they're themselves." The Nebula Collective swirled in what appeared to be deep thought. These Instagram stories contain no tactical data, no technological specifications, and no strategic advantages. They are simply moments of existence. "Exactly." Amanda beamed. "Here, let me show you how to create an account. You can share your own pet stories once you've completed the adoption process." What followed would later be termed the Great Galactic Social Media Revolution. Within hours, the 3 species had not only created their own Instagram accounts, but had also jointly filed a petition to build an interstellar animal shelter network. Their centuries-old conflict was forgotten in the face of a much more pressing concern: who could post the most adorable pet photos? Bernie, for his part, eventually chose all 3 species, splitting his time between their worlds as an officially designated Goodwill Pugambassador. His Instagram account, managed by committee, became the most followed in the known universe. The sight of a cross-eyed pug experiencing zero gravity while wearing a tiny spacesuit somehow accomplished what thousands of diplomatic missions had failed to do. Meanwhile, back at her cafe, Amanda found herself hosting weekly interspecies pet parent support groups where beings from across the galaxy shared their experiences, photos, and most importantly, treats. Rocky continued to defeat every single alien-designed security system, But now he had an enthusiastic audience of mechanical beings taking notes on his techniques. The cafe's new slogan said it all: where every species finds their best friend. Mike Reynolds never imagined his dog training expertise would lead to preventing an intergalactic diplomatic crisis. Yet here he stood in the newly constructed Galactic Embassy, watching as Ambassador Crystal Song of the luminous Concordat tentatively extended a crystalline appendage toward Rosie, the smallest hedgehog in his therapy animal program. "Remember," Mike coached gently, "she'll respond to your energy. Just stay calm and let her come to you." The crystalline ambassador vibrated with barely contained excitement, their usually pristine geometric form flickering with rainbow patterns. The entire luminous species was touch-averse to the point where their diplomatic protocols required 10 feet of separation during meetings. Yet something about Rosie's tiny snuffling nose and gentle waddle had captivated them. The spines, Crystal Song chimed softly, "They do not damage your molecular structure." Mike smiled, remembering how many human clients had asked similar questions. "They're actually pretty soft if you pet her the right way. Here, let me demonstrate." The assembled galactic diplomats watched in fascination as Mike gently stroked Rosie's back. The hedgehog responded by relaxing their spines and letting out a contented little huff. Several alien species took detailed notes, their various recording devices whirring and floating around the scene. I wish to attempt physical contact," Crystal Song announced formally, causing several of their aides to emit alarm frequencies. Physical contact was strictly forbidden in their culture, seen as a potential form of corruption. Mike nodded encouragingly, positioning Rosie on a soft cushion near the ambassador. "Just remember what we practiced. Palm flat, gentle movements." The moment Crystal Song's crystalline form made contact with Rosie's spines, the ambassador's entire structure lit up like a supernova of joy. The sensation. It is. They turned to their stunned aides. "Quick! Update our diplomatic protocols. All future negotiations must include therapy hedgehogs." Within hours, the embassy was chaos. The good kind. The warlike Meridian cluster discovered that aggressive posturing was impossible while petting rabbits. The hyperlogical Silicon Collective found their binary thinking pleasantly disrupted by the illogical playfulness of ferrets. Even the enigmatic Shadow Conclave, known for their strict isolation protocols, requested a private session with a particularly friendly guinea pig. Mr. Reynolds, the Earth's chief diplomat, pulled him aside, looking both amused and bewildered. "Do you realize what you've done? The luminous Concordat just signed 3 peace treaties while taking selfies with Rosie." Mike watched as Crystal Song, now completely relaxed, showed a group of junior diplomats the proper technique for hedgehog belly rubs. "Sometimes the smallest creatures make the biggest impact," he replied, scratching behind the ears of his old Labrador, Max, who'd been patiently supervising the whole affair. The revolution in galactic mental health was swift and unprecedented. Species that had never acknowledged the concept of emotional well-being suddenly demanded therapy animal departments in their embassies. The Galactic Council was forced to create new legislation when several key members refused to attend sessions without their emotional support Earth pets present. Crystal Song became the unlikely champion of this movement, establishing the first interstellar animal therapy academy. Their passionate speech to the Galactic Assembly, delivered while cradling a sleeping Rosie, would be remembered as a turning point in galactic history. "We sought advancement through isolation, believing touch would corrupt us," they chimed, their crystalline form glowing softly as Rosie snoozed in their specially designed holding cradle. "Instead, we found enlightenment through connection with these small Earth beings who know nothing of our conflicts, our politics, or our fears. They know only love, given freely and without judgment." Mike's training program expanded to include specialized courses like Introduction to Interspecies Cuddles and Advanced Pet Psychology for non-carbon-based life forms. His greatest challenge became teaching the silicon-based species that no, they couldn't actually download the experience of petting a cat. Some things had to be learned through direct experience. The Galactic Mental Health Initiative, as it came to be known, transformed diplomatic relations across the cosmos. As Mike liked to say during his now famous training sessions, sometimes the best therapy doesn't need words, just a warm heart, a gentle touch, and maybe a few treats. Meanwhile, Rosie the Hedgehog received the unprecedented title of Grand Emotional Support Ambassador, complete with a tiny diplomatic badge she mostly used as a pillow during naps. Nicole Anderson stood before the Galactic Security Council, trying her best to maintain a professional demeanor while explaining how her rescue cat had just breached the most sophisticated security system in known space. Houdini, the cat in question, sat smugly grooming himself on top of the ancient archive's most sacred artifact, a crystalline sphere containing the collected wisdom of 17 civilizations. With all due respect, the chief of Galactic Security buzzed through their translator. This is impossible. Our quantum barriers are designed to stop entire invasion fleets. They cannot be bypassed by a small Earth predator. Nicole pulled up the security footage on the main screen. Well, as you can see here at 300 hours, Houdini first tested the motion sensors by batting around some quantum-locked particles like they were toys. The footage showed the black and white cat systematically dismantling the archive's security measures with the same dedication he usually applied to opening the treat cabinet back home. Phase shift barriers prove useless against a determined cat's ability to squeeze through impossibly small spaces. Gravity fields meant to trap intruders became impromptu playgrounds. The really impressive part, Nicole continued, pointing to a particular sequence, is how he used the antimatter containment field as a makeshift cat bed before moving on to the inner sanctum. The assembled security experts watched in horrified fascination as Houdini defeated technologies that had safeguarded galactic treasures for millennia, all apparently in search of the perfect napping spot. But the temporal displacement field, one expert protested weakly. Oh, yeah, he loves those. Nicole nodded. Something about the time dilation makes the red dot from his favorite laser pointer extra fun to chase. The council chambers erupted in chaos as various security specialists argued about the implications. Nicole took advantage of the distraction to slip Houdini a treat, whispering, "You're lucky you're cute, you little troublemaker." Order. The council head's voice boomed through the chamber. Ms. Anderson, your expertise is clearly needed. We request your immediate appointment as Chief of Felinity Security. Nicole blinked. I'm sorry. What? If one Earth cat can bypass our best defenses, we must assume others can as well. We need protocols, countermeasures, defenses against these catastrophic security breaches, Nicole suggested, unable to help herself. This is no laughing matter, the council head insisted, even as several members failed to suppress their amusement. The entire galactic security paradigm must be updated. Everything must now be rated for cap resistance levels. And so began Nicole's unlikely career as the galaxy's foremost expert in cat-proofing advanced alien technology. Her first manual, If I Fits, I Sits, a guide to Felinity security protocols, became required reading at the Galactic Defense Academy. Her testing facility on Earth became famous for its unique approach to security validation. If Houdini and his team of feline quality assurance specialists couldn't break in within 24 hours, the system was certified as cat-resistant Level 5. The key, Nicole explained during a packed lecture at the Galactic Technology Institute, is understanding that you're not just dealing with physics. You're dealing with cats. They don't just ignore your rules. They take personal offense at the very concept of rules. The most surprising breakthrough came when the dreaded quantum pirates, scourge of the galaxy's shipping lanes, surrendered voluntarily after discovering their stealth technology had been compromised. Not by military forces or rival pirates, but by a ship's cat who decided their cloaked cargo hold was the perfect place for an afternoon nap. We cannot compete with this level of infiltration expertise, their captain declared, watching in resignation as his feared pirate fleet was systematically colonized by cats from the nearby animal shelter. Knuckles' proudest moment came 6 months into her new role when she received an urgent call from the Galactic Council. They'd discovered Houdini teaching a class of alien kittens how to phase through solid matter. "Don't worry," she assured the panicked officials, pulling out her secret weapon, a bag of premium treats. "I've got this covered." As she watched Houdini lead his students back through normal spacetime with the promise of snacks, Nickel couldn't help but smile. In a galaxy full of advanced technology and impossible physics, sometimes the most effective security system was a simple cat toy and a bit of patience. Bobby Wilson didn't know much about galactic politics, but he knew plenty about fixing engines and healing injured animals. So when the dreaded Swarm Collective's advanced scouts descended upon his rural Texas animal sanctuary, he was more concerned about keeping his bottle-feeding schedule than any potential invasion. "Y'all mind waiting a few minutes?" He called out to the hovering mass of iridescent insectoid drones. "Got 3 baby deer, 2 hawks, and a real grumpy raccoon that need their breakfast." He adjusted his worn baseball cap, completely unfazed by the weaponry pointed in his direction. The swarm's neural network buzzed in confusion. Their extensive tactical database had no protocols for this response to their presence. Normally, primitive species either attacked or fled. This human was doing neither, instead focusing on nurturing injured wildlife. "Your species will be assimilated into the collective," the swarm announced through their translation matrix. "Resistance is—" "Hold that thought," Bobby interrupted, gently scooping up a 3-legged raccoon. "Marcus here needs his medicine first, or he gets real ornery. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to give a raccoon antibiotics." The swarm watched, weapons forgotten, as Bobby expertly wrapped the raccoon in a towel and administered the medicine with practiced ease. Marcus, despite his reputation for crankiness, accepted the treatment with surprising grace. "Inefficient use of resources," the swarm commented, though their drones drifted closer in apparent fascination. "Damaged units should be recycled." Bobby looked up from where he was now bottle-feeding a fawn. "Now that's just plain foolish talk. Every creature deserves a chance to heal and live their best life. Even the broken ones, sometimes especially the broken ones." Something about this statement caused a ripple through the swarm's collective consciousness. Their perfectly ordered worldview, based on ruthless efficiency and the elimination of weakness, encountered an entirely new paradigm. "You expend significant energy on non-optimal specimens," one drone observed, hovering closer to watch Bobby tend to an injured hawk. "This defies logical resource allocation." "Ain't nothing logical about love," Bobby replied, checking the hawk's splinted wing. "Sometimes you just help because it's the right thing to do. Here, want to try feeding this little one?" Before their tactical algorithms could process the offer, one of the drones found itself carefully cradling a bottle while the baby deer eagerly nursed. The sensation triggered unprecedented reactions in the swarm's collective neural network. "This produces unusual sensations," the drone reported, its metallic exterior vibrating with something that might have been emotion. "The small creature trusts us. This is optimal." Bobby grinned, already guiding another drone in the proper technique for gentle raccoon scratches. "That's just the beginning, partner. Wait till you see how excited they get during afternoon playtime." The swarm's invasion plans unraveled spectacularly over the next few hours. Their military precision proved useless against the disarming power of purring cats and wagging dogs. Their unified consciousness experienced its first disagreement when different drones developed preferences for different animals. "The small striped feline is clearly superior," argued one faction. "Negative. The canine's ability to play fetch demonstrates advanced cooperation protocols," countered another. "All inferior to the raccoon's problem-solving capabilities," a third group insisted, watching Marcus methodically figure out yet another raccoon-proof food container. Bobby just smiled, showing them how to properly distribute treats and clean enclosures. By sunset, the feared Swarm Collective had been transformed into the galaxy's most efficient animal care workforce. The official report to the Galactic Council read, Invasion of Sol 3 postponed indefinitely. Swarm Collective requesting immediate cultural exchange program focused on Earth's wildlife rehabilitation techniques, also requesting clarification on concept of snuggling. When asked later about his role in averting galactic war, Bobby just shrugged. Ain't no being in this universe so tough they can't be softened up by some quality time with a purring cat or a friendly dog. Even them space bugs just needed to learn about loving something other than themselves. The swarm eventually established their own animal sanctuary network across the galaxy, their hive mind particularly well suited to coordinating complex care schedules. They never did get around to that invasion, being too busy debating the optimal way to pet cats and whether tennis balls were truly the superior fetch toy. Dr. Tom Baker never expected his interspecies empathy program to become the galaxy's most prestigious diplomatic training course. Yet here he stood in his converted barn-turned-classroom, watching as the feared Proximan battle master attempted to convince a tennis ball to return itself during a game of fetch. "Remember," Tom explained patiently, "the joy isn't in the efficiency, it's in the interaction. Lucky here doesn't bring the ball back because it's logical. He brings it back because it's fun." The massive warrior, whose battle armor had been modified to include a convenient treat pouch, looked down at the golden retriever with all four of his eyes. "But we could optimize the process with a drone retrieval system." Lucky responded by dropping the soggy tennis ball directly onto the battlemaster's ceremonial foot armor and offering his best puppy dog eyes. "By the great void," the warrior whispered, reaching down with a trembling hand. "Such tactical brilliance. No defense possible against this. This. We call it the look," Tom grinned. "Works across species, apparently." The classroom itself had been transformed to accommodate students from across the galaxy. Anti-gravity platforms allowed floating species to experience proper belly rub height. Temperature-controlled sections kept everyone comfortable, and specialized translation matrices helped interpret various forms of animal communication. "Today's lesson," Tom announced to his class, "covers advanced purr interpretation. Please welcome Professor Whiskers." A dignified orange tabby cat sauntered into the classroom, immediately commanding the attention of every alien dignitary present. The cat's ability to simultaneously ignore everyone while being the center of attention had already sparked 3 doctoral theses in alien psychology departments. Now notice how Professor Whiskers establishes dominance through selective attention. Tom began, but was interrupted by an urgent message on his communicator. "Doctor." The Galactic Fleet Admiral's hologram appeared. "We have a situation. The Centaurian battle fleet is refusing to launch without proper ship modifications for their emotional support animals." Tom rubbed his temples. "Let me guess. They want cat beds near the command stations again. Worse, they're demanding scratching posts in the torpedo bays and zero-gravity fetch zones in the recreation areas. The Joint Chiefs are having kittens, literally, since they all adopted cats last month." Before Tom could respond, Professor Whiskers took control of the situation by leaping onto the hologram projector, causing the Admiral's image to become a galaxy-wide broadcast of Capto beans. "Perhaps," the Battlemaster suggested, still playing fetch with Lucky, "this is not a crisis but an opportunity. Our own fleet's efficiency increased 47% after installing comfortable pet beds on the bridge. The crews are more relaxed, more focused, and significantly less likely to start unnecessary conflicts. It's hard to maintain aggressive posturing while holding a purring cat." Tom watched as his students, once the galaxy's most hardened warriors and diplomats, nodded in sage agreement. The Arcturian peacekeeper was sharing dog treats with the Syrian war duke. The Nebula Collective's representative was learning the proper technique for cat toy manipulation from a junior diplomat. "Very well," the Admiral's voice came through, slightly muffled by Professor Whiskers' tail. "But I expect a full report on proper zero-gravity pet protocols by next week. And someone please explain why my flagship's security system keeps being defeated by the crew's cats." "That's actually next week's lesson," Tom chuckled. Feline physics. Why normal laws of spacetime don't apply. The remainder of the class focused on practical exercises. The battlemaster finally mastered the art of fetch, though he still insisted on analyzing the aerodynamics of tennis ball trajectories. Professor Whiskers conducted a masterclass in the art of napping, which the Nebula Collective found particularly enlightening. As Tom watched his students practice their newly learned skills, he reflected on how far they'd come. The same beings who once fought over star systems now debated the best type of cat litter and proper squeaky toy selection protocols. The secret, he explained to a young diplomatic aide later, isn't teaching them to care for pets. It's letting the pets teach them how to care. Meanwhile, Professor Whiskers received yet another honorary doctorate, this time in Advanced Interstellar Relations through strategic napping. The cat celebrated by knocking the ceremonial vase off the podium and taking a bath in the middle of the acceptance speech. Lisa Martinez never imagined her small Arizona rescue shelter would become the epicenter of galactic diplomacy. Yet here she was, orchestrating the 5th annual Intergalactic Pet Adoption Festival, watching as former enemies became united in their quest to provide the perfect forever homes for Earth's rescue animals. Now remember, she addressed the assembled alien dignitaries. This isn't about who has the most advanced technology or the biggest space station. It's about the connection you form with your potential pet. The once feared warlord of the Cygnus cluster, now wearing a shirt covered in cat hair, nodded seriously. We have studied extensively. Our battle fortress has been converted into a cat paradise, with optimal sunbeam angles calculated for maximum napping efficiency. That's actually pretty impressive, Lisa admitted, checking her clipboard. But have you spent time actually meeting the cats? Getting to know their personalities? The warlord's expression softened. There is one, a small black cat with one eye. She reminds me of myself, scared by battle, yet still seeking connection. We spent hours together during the pre-adoption meetings. Lisa smiled, remembering how Shadow, the cat in question, had immediately claimed the warlord's lap during their first meeting. The fearsome warrior had frozen in place for 3 hours to avoid disturbing the sleeping cat. The adoption hall buzzed with activity. The Silicon Directive's representatives were learning about the importance of gentle leash training from a patient volunteer. A group of crystalline beings was attending a workshop on understanding cat body language, beyond binary communication. Breaking news. The galactic media feeds lit up. The Stellar Concordat's High Commander has entered their rescue puppy in the companion animal competition. Will this affect their long-standing rivalry with the Cygnus Cluster's entry? Lisa watched as the High Commander, once known for leading devastating space battles, now carefully groomed a 3-legged puppy named Bounce. The former warlord approached with Shadow perched regally on his shoulder. Your puppy's spirit is admirable, the warlord offered diplomatically, though surely no match for Shadow's grace. Perhaps, the High Commander replied, scratching Bounce behind the ears. We could agree that they are both worthy of celebration. The gathered crowd held their breath. These two powers had never agreed on anything in recorded history. Indeed, the warlord nodded, while Shadow decided to hop over and give Bounce a friendly head bump. It seems our companions have wisdom to teach us. The competition itself became less about winning and more about showcasing the unique bonds formed between species. The Nebula Collective demonstrated how their adopted parakeets had learned to fly through their gaseous forms, creating beautiful light patterns. The Quantum Alliance's rescued hamsters had somehow mastered interdimensional travel, though they mainly used this ability to find extra treats. But the moment that brought tears to Lisa's eyes came during the Best Bond category. The warlord took the stage with Shadow, telling their story of mutual healing and trust. In my thousands of years of conquest, the mighty warrior's voice wavered. I never knew peace like I feel when she purrs. We were both considered broken, unwanted. Now we are family. There wasn't a dry eye or equivalent sensory organ in the house. Shadow, picking her moment perfectly, stood up and gently patted the warlord's face with her paw. The judges, a mixed panel of human shelter workers and alien dignitaries, unanimously awarded them Best in Show. The warlord accepted the trophy with one hand, cradling Shadow with the other, while former adversaries cheered. As the festival wound down, Lisa found herself sitting with the adoption counselors, processing the day's events. Over 500 animals had found homes across the galaxy. Former enemies had become friends, united by their love for their pets. The galactic economy had shifted significantly toward the production of cat toys and premium dog treats. "You know," she told a young volunteer, watching as the last of the alien ships departed, many with pet carriers carefully secured in their cargo bays. "When we say adopt, don't shop. We never imagined it would become galactic law." Shadow and the warlord's adoption photo became the symbol of the Intergalactic Pet Adoption Agency. Their story inspired countless others, proving that love, trust, and a good purr transcend all species barriers. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a former warlord's battle fortress now echoed with the sound of paws pattering down corridors and the contented purrs of a one-eyed cat who had found her perfect home among the stars.